favorites, disappointments, and expectation. Let's break down the mid-year book tag. First, I wanted to talk about my favorite book of the year so far, and that is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I love the backstory behind this one. Brandon and his family were watching The Princess Bride together, and his wife leaned over and told him that she loved the movie, but she wondered how the story would have gone if Buttercup had had a little bit more agency, if she had been the heroine of the story. It's very different from what I've heard from other Brandon Sanderson novels, and I just had a really good time. This book had great world building, and it didn't take itself too seriously, and that's something that made me want to read more from the author. The next question is, what's the best sequel that you've read this year? That would be Artificial Condition by Martha Wells. This is the second book in the Murderbot series. The secondary character that we're introduced in the second installment is Art, and he kind of pushes back against our main character's abilities to manipulate the environment, and that turns out to be a good thing. Art can't be manipulated in the same way as the other boss and systems that Murderbot has interacted with in the previous novel. Unfortunately for us, that turns out to mean that he has the perfect ally for his next adventure. I really liked that buddy dynamic that we had introduced. This series overall has just been so good, and I felt that the second book was really strong. A new release that I'd like to get to soon is Monsters by Claire Dederer. This book asks the question that I'm sure many of us have pondered. Is it okay to be a fan, to support an artist when you love their work, but they're not really a great human? This is a topic that I found myself thinking about a lot over the years, and I'm really interested to see how this author tackles it. My most anticipated new release is coming this fall. We can look forward to a follow-up novel from author Donna Barbara Higuera, the author of The Last Cuentista, and I can't wait. This book is called Alebrijes. The title of this book comes from Mexican folk art. Alebrijes are very brightly colored sculptures of fantastical creatures. We're set in a future Earth where for 400 years, the Earth has been nothing but a barren landscape. It's a bleak existence where the remaining humans have the choice of taking shelter in the cruel city of Pocketel or trying their chances at surviving in the desert wasteland. And the wilderness outside has dangers of its own, including fierce creatures like wandering spirits and worms. Leandro is a 13-year-old pickpocket, and he and his little sister Gabby are barely making it in the city of Pocketel. The city looks down on generations of laborers. The inciting incident of this story is when Leandro's sister Gabby is caught in the act of stealing a precious fruit from one of the upper-class families in Pocketel. Leandro steps in and accepts her punishment, Hunger Games style. His fate is to be exiled outside the city, except there's a cruel twist, and that is that his consciousness is placed inside a drone and left to fend for itself outside the city gates. Beyond the city, Leandro will discover others who are like himself, trying to find the answers, including monsters, pirates, and also the truth that everyone is looking for. I'm really looking forward to giving this one a read. I have pre-ordered it, and I think we can expect a novel that is more than it appears. Like those mysterious sculptures, really has some hard-hitting messages beneath the surface for us to uncover. My biggest disappointment this year was The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, and if you'd like to see my full thoughts on that one, it is in my April reading wrap-up. I was expecting more from it, and I know that some people love this book, and I think that's fantastic. The further that I've gotten from reading it, I do think that I would still give the second book in the series a read, but I was hoping that that book one was going to be a new favorite, and it just did not fill that space. I still will read more from Chakraborty. I, in fact, am looking forward to picking up her Dayavabad series later this year, but for now, I felt a little let down by Amina al-Sarafi. My biggest surprise for this year has to be The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer, and that's purely because I have not had much luck with my Book of the Month picks, but this one was a surprise. I picked this up because there were books on the cover, and I liked the intro chapter that I read on the Book of the Month app. I loved the treasure hunt at the center of this novel. It was a quick read, it felt movie adaptation ready, which is not surprising given Meg Schaefer's background in screenwriting, but I am looking forward to seeing where this book goes next, and I would love to read more from this author, who is a recent favorite author. I had to decide between Juno Black and Robin Hobb, and technically Juno Black is a pairing of two writers. Juno Black is the pen name for Jocelyn Cole and Sharon Nagel, and I learned that because they interacted with me on Instagram, which is really cool. But it was down to that pairing as well as Robin Hobb. And for me, I'm gonna have to say that Robin Hobb is my new favorite author. I only read the Farseer trilogy and have so much more of the world to explore. Her books are definitely more layered than the Shady Hollow mysteries. They're not necessarily books that you would relax in for their coziness, but you are going to go on a journey with her characters. She is one of the best character writers that I have ever read from, and I am looking forward to picking up her Live Ship Traders series this summer. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be in my July TBR. The next question is, who is your newest fictional crush? I would have to say it would be Grim from the Blackthorn and Grim series, and obviously he is not pictured on the cover of any of those. The character Grim is very strong, he's very hardworking, but he's also very caring, and he understands the motivations and the strengths and weaknesses of his friend Blackthorn. And I think because of that, there is a slow burn romance that has begun since book 1, and you almost aren't sure 100% if they're going to pursue that romance, because Blackthorn still hasn't really registered that Grimm's feelings are real. But I think in book 3 we're going to see some progression in that relationship, and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I think that they are characters that belong together. They clearly are a good pairing in their approach to adventures as well as the way that they handle one another emotionally. I think their relationship is one of the more healthy that I have read lately, and I would say that Grim is my fictional crush. My newest fictional character is Emmelie from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This book gives us such a good picture of who Emmelie is as a character, from the writing style with its advanced academic vocabulary to her love for order and definition, cataloging everything. Emmelie wants to understand the why behind everything, even if it's dangerous, and for that she'll risk it for the brisket. While she's very smart and very brave, when her friendly academic rival shows up, he's the catalyst to help her connect to the community, and he also comes in clutch when things get a little bit dangerous. I am looking forward to reading book 2, and Emmelie Wilde is a character that I think that you will enjoy as well. The next question is, what is a book that made you cry? And for this one, I'm going to have to go with Frederick Bachman's conclusion to the Beartown trilogy in The Winners. This book was the stunning conclusion to the Beartown trilogy, which is the dramatic story of a hockey rivalry between two towns in Sweden who are divided by competition and violence. Tensions run high when the daughter of the hockey team manager is assaulted by the star player of the team. It immediately divides the town because there are some who believe that the star player deserves to continue his path to victory in order for the player and the town to have an economic future to look forward to. Others are rightly outraged on behalf of the girl and believe that the player should face justice for his actions. There was so much character exploration that we've had in the first 2 books that this one really was the closer. It brought everything to a head. They are written in third person, and so we get to peek inside the walls of the different establishments in the town, from the hockey rink to the homes of the players and their families, coaches, the local bar, and so we really get to know the characters on a personal level. So when something happens to them, when the troubles escalate, you really feel for what is happening. In each of these books, we're following both the children and the adults in the story, who are each hoping for a different kind of victory, but still unsure if it will mean everything that they've hoped for. If you want to know why this book made me cry, in one word, it would be the character Benji. If you know who this character is, you know that he has a major part to play in this last novel. It was a very moving conclusion to the Beartown series. Alright, moving on to a book that made me happy. That is going to come from the Shady Hollow mystery series, and specifically I'm thinking of book 3, which is Mirror Lake. I just really like spending time in that town with the characters, and I will spare you any additional rants on the coziness of that series. If you want to hear my full thoughts, please watch my April wrap-up video where I rant about the coziness. You get to watch my full thoughts on what makes books so cozy, and in particular why the Shady Hollow mystery series is one of my favorite examples of a cozy book series. My most beautiful book that I have come across this year has to be my Folio Society edition of Pride and Prejudice. So listen, I know there are a lot of different editions out there for this classic, but I was looking for one that I felt did the story justice because it is one of my favorite books. I have read it probably 6 times so far, so I was looking for a copy that I felt did the story justice and had some beautiful artwork inside and out. I also took you inside that edition in my favorite video, but if you haven't watched it yet and you'd like to take a look inside that edition, I'll have the link here on the screen. What are your must-reads for the end of the year? And I have several. I really would like to read a lot more books from the summer going into the winter. I feel like I still have so much time ahead of me, but I know it's gonna go fast. My must-reads for the end of the year are The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This is a strange fantasy set in a library that houses a mysterious community. At the center of the story is a book that can be read, and for some it will bestow magical abilities, for others it will take a life. I have not read anything else by Mark Lawrence, but I'm looking forward to giving this book a try, and I have no doubt that if I enjoy it, it will propel me into a backlist of another very popular author. Another one I'm looking forward to getting to is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Now this one I really know little to nothing about other than its magic school setting, which is definitely a win for me in plot points. And I also know that it happens to be one of Petrik Leo's favorite books. He has talked about it at length on his channel. He is the biggest sci-fi fantasy ally I know, and you should definitely give his channel a watch if you're looking for a new series to start. But I'm looking forward to reading this one before the year is over, and I hope that I love it. As I mentioned, I enjoyed Trust of the Emerald Sea quite a bit, and I'm looking forward to reading more from the author. I'm hoping to dive into the Cosmere via Mistborn before the year is up, but I have to admit that kind of feels like a little bit of a reach goal at this point because of where I am in the realm of the Elderlings. I really would like to progress a little further in that series before I enter a new world. The next question, who are some content creators that you've been following? And I thought I would highlight 2 in this video. The first booktuber I'm going to send you to is Emmelie over at My Bookish Heart. Emmelie is a published author. She writes YA fantasy. I don't have access to any of her books in English yet, but I'm hoping that that's in the future for us. She has some excellent tips if you're looking to read more classics, if you're looking to pick up more big books, and you want some tips for how to tackle those. She has some really amazing advice on her channel, as well as advice for how to annotate your books and really enjoy the experience of reading. A link to her channel is in the description box below. The other creator that I want to point you to is Milena at Milena Reads. Milena is such a fun person to follow because she not only will educate you on what modern and classic feminist books to read, but she also has one of the more fun TBR games that I have seen. It's so colorful, she made it herself, and I always look forward to watching her TBR videos to see what kinds of prompts she's going to draw for that month. So if you're interested, please click the link to her channel in my description as well. Go follow, subscribe, and watch their content and see what you think. If you only answer one of the questions in this video, can you tell me an author that you read from this year who's become a new favorite? If you've watched this far and you don't know what to comment, go ahead and comment a peacock emoji to represent Pride and Prejudice. It's kind of wild to me that I have done a mid-year book tag with you now, and I've only been on this space for a few weeks, and I'm so excited to see where we go from here. I hope that the last 6 months have brought you some favorite authors and some books that you just can't help but recommend to everyone who's willing to listen. I will see you in another video soon.